Hello students, I hope you are doing great. Welcome back to the daily news analysis 3rd of May 2022. I am your educator Prithviraj Singh. Let us begin with the session. Now guys, there has been a news article on the health facilities. The central government saying that be prepared and keep the health facilities in line to actually being prepared for the heat wave cases. Now we all know that the North India is being grilling under the heat wave conditions, right? Now in order to save ourselves and protect ourselves from the heat wave, the central government has issued directions to keep the health facilities prepared so as to avoid from any casualties happening from the heat wave, right? So the severe heat conditions prevailing in the month of April, and April has been one of the hottest month if you compare it with the past many 20-25 years. Now the health facilities need to increase resilience to extreme heat wave conditions. Let us understand what is heat wave, guys. When I talk about the heat wave, there are two ways actually, two angles to look at it. One is the qualitative angle and the other is quantitative angle. If I talk about the qualitative angle, it is a condition of air temperature which becomes fatal to human life, right? It becomes fatal to human body and it goes beyond the tolerable limit, right, when exposed. So that is the qualitative angle at seeing the heat waves. As far as the quantitative angle is concerned, the heat waves are being based on the temperature thresholds, right? So there is a specific temperature limit, right? And if the temperature is exceeding that that limit, or if there is a fluctuation in the range of the normal range of the temperature, that is also being regarded as heat wave, right? So the temperature thresholds over region in terms of actual temperature, right, or its departure from normal. In certain countries it is defined in terms of heat index, right, based on temperature and humidity or based on extreme percentile of temperatures, right? So there are two angles to see the heat waves, the qualitative angle and the quantitative angle, right? Now this is the chart of the heat wave, and we'll be actually understanding the concept from this slide. Now heat wave is considered if maximum temperature of a station reaches at least 40 centigrade or more, right? So students, जो plain areas हैं, right, plain areas, I'm not talking about the hilly areas, I'm limiting myself to the plain areas. So now the examiner might also ask you that which among the following statements about heat wave is correct. So this is the scientific data, right? If the temperature is greater than equal to 40 degrees centigrade for the plains, right, or it is greater than equal to 30 degrees centigrade for the hilly regions, such conditions are called as heat waves. So they may actually give you the temperature range and may ask you, to tick the correct statement, right? So very, very important. This is the first thing that you have to keep in mind. If the temperature in the plain region is greater than equal to 40 degrees centigrade, and if it is greater than equal to 30 degrees centigrade in the hilly regions, then it would be categorized as heat wave, right? And if I talk about the departure from normal, right, departure from normal, if the heat wave departure from normal is 4.5 to 6.4 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड, राइट, तो ये चीज़ आपको हमेशा माइंड में रखनी है कि नॉर्मल टेम्परेचर से अगर फ्लक्चुएशन कोई 4.5 से 6.4 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड तक होता है, राइट, इफ द फ्लक्चुएशन इन द टेम्परेचर इज इन द रेंज ऑफ 4.5 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड टू 6.4 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड, उस केसेस में भी इसको हीट वेव की कैटेगरी में रखा जाएगा. एट द सेम टाइम सीवियर हीट वेव इज व्हेन वेयर द, तो इसके अंदर एक तो ये हीट वेव हो गया, राइट, एक होता है सीवियर हीट वेव. नाउ सीवियर हीट वेव के लिए भी दे हैव मेंशन्ड द क्राइटेरिया, दैट इज इफ द डिपार्चर फ्रॉम द नॉर्मल विच इज ग्रेटर देन 6.4, राइट। तो 4.5 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड से 6.4 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड के बीच में अगर होगा तो उस मतलब इफ इट इज डिपार्टिंग फ्रॉम द नॉर्मल इन दिस रेंज, देन इट वुड बी कॉल्ड एज हीट वेव और HW। एंड इफ इट द डिपार्चर इज ग्रेटर देन 6.4 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड, तो इसको कहा जाएगा सीवियर हीट वेव, राइट, सीवियर हीट वेव, करेक्ट। Now based on the actual maximum temperature, the heat wave is when the actual maximum temperature is greater than equal to 45 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड, राइट। तो ये तो है कि एक्चुअल जो मैक्सिमम टेम्परेचर है उसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, और सीवियर हीट वेव इज व्हेन एन एक्चुअल टेम्परेचर मैक्सिमम टेम्परेचर इज ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू 47 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड, राइट। नाउ इफ अबव क्राइटेरिया मैट एटलीस्ट इन 2 स्टेशंस, ये कंडीशन है कि अगर वो 2 स्टेशन में ये क्राइटेरिया अगर मीट हो रहा है इन अ मीटेरोलॉजिकल सब डिवीजन फॉर एटलीस्ट 2 कॉन्सिक्यूटिव डेज, और 2 लगातार दिनों तक ये क्राइटेरिया मीट हो रहा है, 2 स्टेशन 2 कॉन्सिक्यूटिव डेज तक ये क्राइटेरिया अगर मीट हो रहा है, जो मैंने बताया आपको कि प्लेन्स में इफ इट इज ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू 40 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड, हिली रीजन्स में इफ इट इज ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू 30 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड। एक तो फैक्ट ये हमने यहाँ से सीखा। सेकेंड फैक्ट जो हमने सीखा है वो ये सीखा है कि अगर नॉर्मल से डिपार्चर टेम्परेचर अगर हो रहा है 4 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड से 6.4 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड तक, तब भी उसको हीट वेव कहेंगे। और अगर 6.4 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड से ज़्यादा अगर डिपार्चर हो रहा है नॉर्मल से, देन इट वुड बी कॉल्ड एज सीवियर हीट वेव, राइट। नाउ ये इफ दिस कंडीशन इज बीइंग प्रेवलेंट इन एटलीस्ट 2 स्टेशंस एंड दिस परसिस्ट फॉर 2 कॉन्सिक्यूटिव डेज, देन इट वुड बी डिक्लेयर्ड एज द हीट वेव, करेक्ट। तो ये चीज़ें हमें क्लियर होना चाहिए, क्योंकि ये गवर्नमेंट का डेटा है, IMD का डेटा है, इंडियन मेट्रोलॉजिकल डिपार्टमेंट का डेटा है, राइट। सो देयरफॉर ये इस पे क्वेश्चन अगर आता है तो ये स्टेटमेंट्स आपको करेक्ट टिक करना है, करेक्ट। थर्ड क्राइटेरिया फॉर डिस्क्राइबिंग द हीट वेव फॉर कोस्टल स्टेशंस। अब कोस्टल स्टेशंस के लिए अलग क्राइटेरिया है, हिली रीजन्स के लिए अलग क्राइटेरिया था, प्लेन के लिए अलग। हमें पता है कि प्लेन में ज़्यादा हीट होती है, राइट, प्लेन रीजन्स के अंदर ज़्यादा हीट होती है। अगर इफ़ यू गो टू हिमालयन रेंजेस, हिमाचल प्रदेश, जम्मू कश्मीर, वहाँ पे टेम्परेचर कम होता है, राइट, बिकॉज ऑफ द ऑल्टीट्यूड, तो वहाँ पे डेफिनेटली आपका जो क्राइटेरिया है वो कम होगा। सिमिलरली जो कोस्टल स्टेशंस है वहाँ पे टेम्परेचर तो ज़्यादा होता है बट ह्यूमिडिटी भी ज़्यादा होती है, राइट, जिसको हमने कल एक टर्म यूज़ करी थी, वेट बल्ब टेम्परेचर, वेट बल्ब temperature. Yesterday guys we discussed this term wet bulb temperature, and here we understood that in the coastal regions where the temperature is very high along with the very high humidity, मतलब humidity भी बहुत ज़्यादा है और temperature भी बहुत ज़्यादा है, ऐसी conditions में it becomes quite very difficult to sustain or it is very damaging to the overall, I mean to the body. So therefore this condition is called as wet bulb temperature. We'll understand the criteria for describing heat wave for the coastal stations. When maximum temperature departure is 4.5 degree or more from normal, heat wave may be described provided actual maximum temperature is 37 degree centigrade or more, right. So this is the condition, right. So here you must actually remember this thing, right. ये फैक्ट हमें पता होना चाहिए, प्लस जो नॉर्मल रेंज से जो डिपार्चर है वो फैक्ट भी पता होना चाहिए. Let us see from the chart. Now in the chart you can easily identify the plain and the hill region, right? And this is the heat wave scenario and the maximum temperature range, correct? So the heat wave scenario 40 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड जो मैंने बताया था प्लेन्स के लिए, हिल्स के अंदर 30 या 30 से ज़्यादा, राइट, 30 डिग्री या 30 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड से ज़्यादा अगर टेम्परेचर होगा तो उसको हीट वेव की कैटेगरी में कहेंगे. एक कंडीशन, प्लस दूसरी कंडीशन जो मीट होनी चाहिए वो ये है कि जो नॉर्मल टेम्परेचर से जो डिविएशन है, डिपार्चर है, वो 4 से 4.5 डिग्री तक होना चाहिए, राइट, 4.5 से 6 डिग्री तक होना चाहिए, राइट. और सीवियर हीट वेव कंडीशंस तब होगी जब वो डिपार्चर 6 डिग्री या 60 डिग्री से ज़्यादा होगा, राइट. सो इन दिस सेंस यू कैन कैटेगराइज दीज प्लेसेस एज टू बी बीइंग अंडर हीट वेव, प्लस वो 2 स्टेशंस के अंदर होना चाहिए फॉर 2 consecutive days. Moving to the next news article, voluntary vaccine policy ensures question of intrusion into bodily integrity does not arise, right? In this sense, a petition was being filed by a person saying that, vaccine the government making the vaccines mandatory is actually against the right to privacy, and the person denied to actually take the vaccinations. The government has said that in its response, that vaccinations are not mandatory, and there is no question of the intrusion of bodily integrity or personal autonomy of an individual, right? So this question does not arise because center's COVID-19 vaccination policy is voluntary, it is optional, it is not mandatory, and the question of any state intrusion in bodily integrity or personal autonomy of an individual does not arise, right? So there is no violation of right to privacy or that of the violation of bodily integrity because the vaccination policy is voluntary, right? Now it was a 115-page judgment led by the bench led by Justice L. Nageshwar Rao, and they clearly said that this would indeed be it is not a violation of the individual privacy, correct? And the persons who keen to not be vaccinated on account of personal beliefs or preferences can avoid vaccination without anyone physically compelling them to be vaccinated, right? So no one can physically compel you to get vaccinated, so this is there, right? At the same time, there are reasonable limitations also attached to your fundamental rights, because if, let's say, if the government finds that any person is carrying the infection and may spread infection to others, in that case definitely the government can impose restrictions or limitations on his or her movement, correct? So therefore because fundamental rights are not absolute except Article 17, right, which is abolition of untouchability. So state can impose reasonable limitations, and state has an obligation to impose reasonable and proportionate limitations on individual rights, correct, if there is a likelihood that the individuals may spread infection to other people, right? So the government can regulate such public health concerns by imposing certain limitations on individual rights that are reasonable and proportionate, right? And even the employer, the place where you are working, cannot impose on you that one must be vaccinated to be there in to be inducted into the firm, but they must encourage all the eligible employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19 on a voluntary basis, right? So they should not make it mandatory, subject to the individual advice of the employees' doctors, right? So however, there are many key elements in the voluntary vaccination policy. The first is definitely the education, because many people are actually going ahead with the administration of the vaccination. There are incentives, extra sick days off, so on and so forth, right? Moving to the next news article about Indian Railways. So guys, Indian Railways has recently announced the closure of Sresht Lucknow. Very, very important, and I expect a question on this. Sresht Lucknow stands for Special Railway Establishment for Strategic Technology and Holistic Advancement. I repeat, Sresht stands for Special Railway Establishment for Strategic Technology and Holistic Advancement, Sresht, right? So recently the Indian Railways has announced the closure of Sresht Lucknow. They may ask you that which among the following agencies or organizations of Indian Railway has been closed recently. So it is Sresht Lucknow, right? As you can see, it stands for Strategic Technology and Holistic Advancement. Itself means that it works for the new initiatives, research and development in railways, right? And its office is at Lucknow. Now if I talk about the background, it was established in the year 2016, as a part of Research Designs and Standards Organization, RDSO. So RDSO is a group, is an organization in the Indian Railways, and it works for research designs and standard and standard setting, right? And it was tasked with the role of taking up long-term railway research projects, right? The long-term railway research projects requiring technological advancement, right? So all the technological advancement is done through RDSO, which stands for Research Design and Standards Organization, right? And although there are in the the railways are into its restructuring plan, and there are many organizations, agencies of Indian Railways which do overlap with each other, and the government and the Ministry of Railways is merging many of the directorates. So there has been a merging of 32 directorates of the RDSO and bringing them under the 7 verticals, right? So they all would be brought under 7 verticals: administration, infrastructure, supply, signal, telecommunications, so on and so forth, right? So the Ministry of Railways is also merging its various departments because of the overlapping and the confusions which are involved. So therefore this merger is taking place, and they've already closed the Sreshth Lucknow, right? So at the same time, Indian Railway is governed by a pool of officers. See, because railway is definitely a technical department, but you also require administrative officers, right? And the administrative officers which actually look into the overall administration, management, supervision, comes from Indian Civil Services, right? So when you appear for the UPSC exam, you also get many services like Indian Railway Traffic Services, so on and so forth, right? And this, you are being recruited by UPSC. Now you are being recruited as journalist. At the same time, as I said, that railway is a technical department, so you also need technical experts, also called a specialist. Now there has been a lot of dispute between journalist and specialist, and this debate is something which has been seen from a long time. Journalists are in conflict with the specialist, and this debate is a ever-going debate between that whether we should have more specialists or journalists, or we should completely get away with all the journalists, so on and so forth, right? So as I said, that the civil servants in the Indian Railway Traffic Services, right, IRTS, then you have Indian Railway Account Services, Indian Railway Personnel Services, right, are being recruited from the UPSC. They are civil servants, and the engineers are in 5 technical service cadres: Indian Railway Service of Engineers, Indian Railway Service of Mechanical Engineers, so on and so forth, right? Now until 1950s, the railway system was run by officers from just 3 main streams: traffic, civil engineering and mechanical. The other streams emerged as a separate services over time, right? Now the government wants to end the interdepartmental rivalries which it says have been hindering growth for decades, correct? And a committee भी बनी थी 2015 में called as Vivek Debroy Committee. Vivek Debroy Committee noted that there have been too much departmentalization. बहुत सारे departments है railways के अंदर, and this has become a major problem in the system, right? So they also suggested the merging of these departments and closing of some units, and then you would be merging them, correct? And even there have been recommendation by the Debroy Committee that a separate exam under the UPSC to be proposed to be instituted in 2021 to induct IRMS officers, Indian Railway officers, right? So there are at the same time concerns with restructuring that it would actually fundamentally because then you would be again there would be conflict between the journalist and the specialist, and right. So this is what this article talks about. If I give some brief historical background of the Indian Railways, it dates back to over 160 years, right? When the first passenger train started between Bombay to Thane, right? So it was 34 kilometers passage between Bombay to Thane, right? Bori Bundar, Bombay to Thane, a distance of 34 kilometers. It was operated by 3 locomotives named Sahib, Sultan and Sindh, and had 13 carriages, right? So it is a long history of Indian Railways, starting with the year 1853, right? So the first carriage was in the year 1853 from Bombay to Thane, a distance of 34 kilometers. Right? So this article is also relevant. You must read this to gain more understanding about how Indian Railways work, right? Moving to the next news article from Indian Express. An expert explains need ease of doing science, wider distribution of grants, right? So guys, as we have the ease of doing business, why not have ease of doing science, right? The newly appointed principal scientific advisor, right? Very important post, principal scientific advisor, PSA. Now this person gives the scientific advice to the Prime Minister, the principal scientific advisor, and a new principal scientific advisor has been recently appointed, right, in the month of April 2021, right? And this is Professor Ajay Kumar Sood, and this is very, very important, and I strongly expect a question on this in the exam and even in the mock test. So be prepared about this question. The newly appointed principal scientific advisor is Professor Ajay Kumar Sood, and he is a professor coming from IISc, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, right? Professor Ajay Kumar Sood, and he's talking about the elements of his vision, including focus on future vaccinations and perhaps India's own space acts, right? So as there was space acts of Elon Musk, Tesla, right, etc. So India would be having its own space acts, right? So Ajay Kumar Sood from IISc, Indian Institute of Science. Now, as this position was established in the year 1999, and it is a principal scientific advisor to the Prime Minister of the country, giving all the scientific advices for the development of science and technology in the country, right? So this is there. He coordinates across various science ministries and advises the right things, which is futuristic, which is innovative, and how the country can be tech ready. Correct. Now, how will the opening of the space sector to private players change space science, right? Now there will be big synergy with the private sector, which was more or less absent, right? Because there is not much synergy between ISRO and the private players, right? And if it happens, when the private players would start coming in and collaborating with ISRO, then it would be a win-win situation for all, and new ideas would come, and possibly we would be able to manufacture the products or design the products at a lesser cost. Earlier we were designing the satellites, all that will change and it will amplify. It can't take away anything from the program, right? So I hope the session was interesting and clear, right? Stay tuned for more such interesting session. Press the bell icon for regular updates. Wish you all the best. Good day, goodbye, God bless you.